This wasn't a USPTA Southern Pro, it was a USPTA Texas Pro. We didn't have those goals, so I want you to know that. But how could someone do something like that, right? So it's kind of curious, but we want to have really good plans for what we do. So I mentioned earlier, I'm really big on processes. I really believe things have to be orderly, and it's clarity before strategy when you work. So we're going to go over 4 or 5 different ideas that I believe have merit and will help you be more successful when you teach or manage. So we're going to go over a couple ideas really quickly we discussed last time. So instead of asking for feedback, I'll go over them fast. We talked about why do people play tennis. To me, it's really critical that we understand and our staff understand, or the young people coming into our business, that people do not play tennis for tennis. People play tennis for the benefits of tennis. The benefit is socializing and camaraderie and exercise, all these different ideas. That isn't just semantics, it isn't just a small idea. With the kids growing up today in the economy of assisted self-service, not many understand what hospitality really is all about or what they're doing. They don't come to work to teach forehands. They come to work to have a positive impact on someone's life and change it, and they do it by these different ideas here. So that's the first idea I think is really critical to understand, is why do people play tennis? And again, what business are we in? It's critical to understand the purpose of a business is not to make money. Just like for our students, the purpose of going out in the match is not to win. Not the purpose, because the purpose is the beginning point. Now the end point, or the desired outcome of the match, is victory. But it's not the purpose. The beginning point of a business is to solve problems, seize an opportunity, or if you're really creative, do what's called disruptive innovation. So when Henry Ford started the automobile, if he would have polled his customers, what do you want in transportation, they would have said, faster horses. He goes, no, I'm going to disrupt all of society and build an automobile. The same things happen with the computer and the cell phones. Those are huge changes. We probably won't have disruptive innovation in the tennis program, but we really can have a positive impact on someone's life and know the purpose of what we do is to give benefits of tennis to people. And if we do it well, the outcome is we make money. Just like the purpose of a match is to focus well, to make that ball look so big and so slow that it's so easy to get to and look so well that I can give Jorge a more awkward contact point that goes my way. The outcome is different than the purpose. So what business are we in? Again, what I said is we're in the lifestyle change business. That's the business we're in. It's critical we all understand that. That's what we viewed from last time. What I want to start with is this: that if I asked for show of hands, if I said, do you understand what social styles is? How many have studied or know what social styles is? Okay, many? Okay. Well, good. I think this is kind of fun. What social styles says is that as human beings, we are genetically encoded or kind of pre-wired. The way we're created or made is we have a predisposition to a major social style. And there's 4 of them. Now, if we took a cross-section of 100 people watching the sporting event, 25% would be in each category. So a lot of people are analytical. This is how they view the world order. This is how things work for them. Analyticals are task-oriented people. All right, and what they are, they're very precise, they're very thorough, they like to deal in facts. Okay? And now, so if I ask you, if you know someone who's analytical, what type of job do they gravitate toward? Yeah, first answer usually is accounting. They're accountants. Like Pat said, and I was one of the owners and general manager of Rochester Athletic Club, we had our finance director. Luckily, she was a CPA. I mean, she really was more than qualified for our business. She loved sitting in a room and making reports all day. And I would have gone nuts in about 10 minutes, not my social style, but she loved it. And she was very precise. Okay? So those are what those people are like. Drivers are very goal-oriented. The analogy is they call them type A's. They're the type of people that have 3 projects going on and thinking about a 4th. Those are very goal-oriented, disciplined, they're really push for results. If you're a real driver, you like to be in charge. Okay? You may have bosses like that. I just, again, retired as a national tennis director for lifetime. It's not meant to be a negative comment. But the CEO of the company is a real driver. So when you go in for a meeting, he takes charge and he runs the meeting, you take notes. All right, it's kind of the way he does things. He's an unbelievable driver. Amiable, those are people-oriented. Those are the ones who really enjoy being with people and socialize. So if you have a party tonight, they're going to be the last ones to leave. All right? And they feel good. They really like to accept people and help others. My wife, who I've been married to for 35 years, I lovingly call her the mother to the world. All right? The number of stray dogs, which I banned because they had fleas when they come in the house. But we've had, half a dozen people live with us and all that. She's definitely a very amiable personality. The last ones are expressive. These are the creative people. These are the idea-oriented. They're the expressives. They tend to become maybe actors. They're the people who are the visionaries. There's who you'd potentially call a Steve Jobs, who is visionary for the cell phone, or Bill Gates, and the visionary for computers. So the concept is, all of us have to wear all these hats. So when Jorge runs his program, at times, he has to be analytical, because he has to put together a budget. At times, he has to be a driver. Okay, we're supposed to get 10% more in lessons. Let's figure out a program. How are we going to do it? Let's get some flyers. Let's email people. We want to get 10% more. He has to be amiable. When people walk in the shop, he's got to go, Lane, nice to see you again. How's the wife doing? We got you all set up on court 4, like we all do. You have to be amiable, and you have to be expressive. Because, okay, where's our program going to be 5 years from now? It has to be idea-oriented. Does that make sense? When we put them in this category, does that make sense to you? Okay, and the concept is, this is not right or wrong. You can have a dominant style probably, and it's the way we're kind of genetically encoded. So it deals with behaviors. So the way my finance director behaved, she loved being in an office, making reports. It doesn't have any kind of reflection on our personal integrity or worth. It's about behavior. If you understand yourself better, all right, how you view the world order, you'll maybe get to be in a better job. When she was our finance director, I had all my department heads being MOD. You have those, manager on duty. So we hired her, only gave her one shift, 9 to noon on Thursdays. She was MOD. I don't think much of it. We have like a 6-month review. I walked in, she's sitting there and she goes, I don't care about any money, I don't care about any more vacation time, I don't care about anything, but just please take me off being MOD. I go, really? She goes, I'm an accountant, I'm a fact person, I'm not a people person. She goes, I'm terrified of Thursday mornings. I think of calling in sick every Thursday, because if there's a conflict that day, I can't handle the conflict. All right, so she was so much of a analytical, it was good she chose the job as an accountant. Her profession fit her lifestyle. And of course, me being the benevolent manager that I was, I said, tough crap, get out there and be MOD. No, I didn't do that. Because that wouldn't fit with her social style. I said, no problem, don't be MOD anymore. So I took her off. All right, so just to understand ourselves better is really important. You can understand and appreciate others better. So if Len and I are working the front desk, in fact, I'll give you a true story. We had Gavin and Melissa work the front desk. Gavin was unbelievably analytical. So he would come in, all the pencils had to be sharpened with the leads up, all the membership cards had to have the name up and the hole punch on the right side. This had to be here, this had to be there. He was off the chart analytical. Melissa was very amiable. You walk in, hey, how was your sister's wedding 3 weeks ago? I haven't seen you. What do you have for food? And she's talking to people forever. Oh, I'll go around and give you a hug, that type of stuff. Gavin thinks, you're an idiot, okay? You're supposed to be answering that phone in 2 rings, and you threw that card down with the number on this side instead of that side. You don't care about the important things in life. And Melissa goes, you're a weirdo. Who cares how the pencils are stacked? So if you don't really understand each other, how you view the world, there's real conflict in the workplace. So I can remember when I was at one club in Minneapolis, we had a restaurant manager. His name was Tom Pellegrino. He had a son named Peter Pellegrino. I remember him very clearly. Really nice guy. He's a restaurant manager. He was off the chart analytical. We once had an IBM, fully reputable company, wanted to rent our North Star room at $445 for $1,000 party. This is 20 years ago. But our North Star room in our book didn't open until 5. He turned the party away. I said, what are you doing? You turned away 1,000 books and they're members and they're good customers. I can't take it at 4:45. That room doesn't open until 5. And after I got done strangling him, I said, but you know what? He was the wrong person in that job. He didn't last at all as a restaurant manager. He took a job writing menus for the Minnesota State Department for children's school lunches. The perfect job fit for him. But if we understand social styles, we understand people better. And then we can adjust to them. So if I'm way over here and somebody else is way over here, we understand each other. We're not going to change, but we come together and we know how to work together. So if Lane and Jorge are walking in and Lane is amiable and goes, stop for a second. Isn't it a gorgeous sky? Look at those cumulus clouds. And Jorge, the flowers are blooming. Look at those daffodils down there. Isn't it a gorgeous day? Because he's amiable. He's a driver saying, would you shut up? It's 4 minutes to 9. If you're walking fast, I can return 2 emails and make 1 phone call before I start my lesson. But if they understand each other, you respect each other more, type idea. There's no worst or best style. Every business needs every kind, all right? And so that's what social styles are all about. This was first actually written in documents by Hippocrates, the Greek philosopher and physician, where we get the Hippocratic oath. It's been around a long time. So let's go back for it. So why do I bring this up in a tennis situation? Because I will claim, if you can recognize what type of social style your lesson is, and you can speak their language, I guarantee your lesson success retention will go up 10% in a heartbeat. I really believe it will. So examples are, if someone's analytical and we talk to them, what do? You talk in facts. Now you know what? We realize that you're winning about 52% of your points. If you can win even 56% of your points, that will translate into you winning the set 6-4 as opposed to losing 7-5. So we're going to work on some unforced errors on your forehand and get you to get 3 balls in every time instead of 2, and that'll raise your percentage by 2 points, and I guarantee you'll be more successful. I mean, an analytical person eats that up. Those kind of facts and those statistics, they're on board. All right? If you said that to a driver, they're going to punch you and walk off the court. They don't want to hear that. If Jorge's a driver, I say, okay, Jorge, here's what we're doing. We're going to hit 10 forehands in, then we're going to hit, serves. We want 20 in, and we're going to play out points. And the goal is that I'm going to start at you at 30 love, and you got to see if you can beat me in this game. You give him goals, you give him challenges, and that guy loves that goal-oriented driver type of lesson. Amiable, what do? Now, could you feel that on that point? As opposed to saying, can you see it type idea? And what do you do with the amiables? Get them involved in leagues and mixers and activity because they're people person. I mean, don't necessarily have them come to privates, try to get them in groups. But can you talk their language? And you don't ever scold them or give them too high of a goal, make it all more friendly when you're on the court. And expressives, they're idea-oriented, they're future thinkers. You know what, Lane? We're going to keep working on this. I guarantee you in 3 more lessons, you'll have that spin on that second serve. And you have that spin on that second serve, you're going to move 2 months from now from 3-0 to 3-5, and here's what we're doing, they're real idea-oriented. That makes sense to you? Any feedback on that? Does anyone now talk the language of the person? Can you recognize when someone, you recognize anyone now, you look at this, who's a driver when they come on the court? Do you speak driver language to them?
Yeah, I mean, drivers, like, come on, let's go, let's do it. Like, you gotta push them, and like the analyticals, they'll see a shot and they'll just tilt their head to the side.
Okay.
Because they're just thinking about it.
Yep.
But then the drivers will, come on. It's like, and then the amiables, they hit in the net and they're like, oh, but who's watching?
Yeah. Okay.
It's like, you can just tell it.
Okay. Good hope.
I think one of the keys is that you need to have all of them in your organization. You need to have some of each. You cannot have all, for example, drivers or all analyticals in your organization.
Well, as employees, you need all kind. Mm-hmm. My fitness director had great schmoozing skills. He could schmooze anybody. He was fantastic. Working the fitness floor. If he was within a couple $100 a payroll, good enough. No, all right? If I had him run the accounting department, it'd have been a disaster. But he was, and if I had my finance manager run the front desk, that would have been a disaster. So yeah, for us as employees, it's the right person in the right job. If you want to read, if you haven't read the book, probably the biggest Bible of business in the last 10 years was Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And that's probably the most used phrase out of that book. It's the right person on the right seat in the right bus. That's what they're saying. So yeah, in a business, definitely. In a club, it's nice to have all those people as members as well.
Greg, isn't the majority of us part of each of these?
Definitely. I would say you've got kind of a predominant style, and definitely under pressure, we'll go to that. But we definitely have to wear all hats, and you definitely have to be a bit of each. But when I was a minority owner and general manager at the Rochester Athletic Club in Minnesota. We had 3 other owners. The majority owner was an engineer who, if he lived his life over again, would have been an accountant. He was off the chart analytical. When I worked with him, I prepared reports and numbers and all typed out in options. Our number 2 owner was a driver. He'd walk in and say, "Greg, how you doing?" "Up 6%. Before I even got the word percent off, he's walking away from me. If my sentence was more than 4 words long, I lost him. Okay? The other owner was amiable. He cared about the cleanliness of the locker room, how people were doing. So I talked to each owner differently. Yep, I did. So, go ahead.
Yeah, what do you recommend for, you talk about recognizing these people in, I'm assuming like a private. What about a team when you've got groups, when you've got, 8, 10 ladies out there?
Hopefully you can do a little bit of everything. So if you're talking about a stroke, you can say, okay, for the amiables that resonate, could you feel that? Could you see that? Let's just do a group exercise now. For the drivers, you can say, okay, we're going to spread out. We're all going to see if we can get 3 balls in a row. So you got to massage it, do a little bit for both, everything. But I want to move on to the next idea. But I would claim if we can see what those people are like, and you talk their language, do drills, correctly. Yes.
Just a quick question. Do you find that people are sometimes like this in a business environment and then change their top one when they're in a home environment? Or do they think they're that way in every part of their life? Maybe the heavy analyticals, but I see myself maybe in a business environment as expressive, but maybe in a family environment more amiable. So I think my top changes depending on the audience of what I'm around.
Yeah, you're definitely not analytical.
What's that?
You're definitely not analytical.
No.
I'm trying to good change.
But I have people that do that for me, so I don't have to keep up with that,
The last point I want to make, we'll move on, is that we all work with different people in lessons. I had a lady who was a 4.5 player, her name was Joan, and I worked with her, and then when I was president of our local USJ section, I said, you got to get involved in USJ, you're really good at all this stuff. Now Joan Baker's on the USJ board of directors. So she's done really well. She's a sharp lady. And the part of the story is she owned her own health benefits company. And I can remember her saying to me, she goes, Greg, when I walk into a room and there's 3 owners there, I got my antenna up and I'm reading their social style and I talk to the social style of each person. And that's how I was so successful. It's all because I read people and I taught social style. And I talked to them that way. So I just think this is a really big deal. If we can get master this more and more, I think it'll be more and more successful. It's not being devious, it's teaching that resonates with our students. Okay? We don't have time to go over it, but you all know also people have different learning styles. So they can be visual, verbal, and kinesthetic. So if they're verbal, did you see that? If they're kinesthetic, did you feel that? So you all know that as well. Next major concept I want to go over is motivating. So if I ask this, I want a show of hands. How many of you believe you can motivate your students or your staff? Show of hands. Okay. How many believe you cannot motivate your students? Now, not everyone raised their hand. So we're going to do it again. If you believe you can motivate somebody, raise your right hand. Okay. If you cannot, raise your left hand. Leave it up. Leave it up. So if you can't, raise your left hand. All right, good. So the concept is, everyone with their hand up is kind of right. It's pretty much all correct. So you're a PhD in sports psychology, right? So we have the sports psychologist here, and you're here, and she was the one who said you can't do it. If Jim Lair was sitting here or Bryce Young, they would answer the same way, wouldn't they? Okay, because the point I want to make here, which to me I think is a really big idea, is that as a tennis professional working with a student, as a boss working with an employee, there is no way I can motivate anybody else. It's not even humanly possible. Because motivation comes from our own internal value system. I do what I want based on my personal values. That's why we can't motivate anybody else, right? Okay, so in your handouts right there, you'll see there's about a 4-page sheet on motivating climate. I gave mine away to somebody else. Let me get another copy out here. Because I think this is really a big deal to understand. So it says, do you think you can motivate somebody? Because what I say is we cannot motivate anybody else because what I do is based on my own internal value system. You all came here because I believe you felt it was valuable for you to learn and grow to come here. It was your value system. But as a tennis professional with my students, as a leader with my staff, I have what I almost believe is a sacred obligation to create a motivating climate. That's what I can do as a good pro or a good leader, is create an environment where people who want to learn or excel will thrive. That's what my job is. So my job is to create a motivating climate. I really can't motivate anybody. And that's what this sheet's all about. So if you want to turn this to the second page, so I put together what I think is the top 10 list, how you can motivate other people. So we're going to go through this kind of quickly. If you don't have one of those, it's up here on the board. First is, if we want to motivate, if we want to be successful as tennis professionals or leaders, first thing we have to do is articulate a clear vision and mission. Like we said, a vision is your preferred future, where you want to be 5 or 10 years from now. A mission statement is the most important value we have. It's the core value. It really is the context for all decisions we make. So how do I know what the context is for the decision, to ask Wayne to run 10 miles a day instead of 5 or whatever? So we have to have a mission and a vision, or you're not going to have a motivating climate. And like I said, make sure the mission is clear. People will put a mission statement up on a wall and never look at it again. It's got to be a living, breathing idea. So we have to really live it. But I think everyone should have a personal mission statement and a business mission statement. At my club in Rochester, again, you have 350 employees, probably 250 or more were high school and college kids, like you have in clubs, part-time kids. So I wanted a mission statement that had a little fun to it. So the mission statement of our club was, me first. That was our mission statement. But the me, with capital letters, stood for member experience first. That's what it was. I told you last session I'm an acronym geek. First stood for, I think it was focus, integrity, respect, sustainability, I think it was trust. So that's what it was. So I wanted every employee who parked their car in the parking lot to know they did not come in to fold towels, to teach a lesson, to wait on somebody in the restaurant. Everybody parks their car in the parking lot and comes in for the same reason, to live the mission. We all have different tasks. We all have the same function, and that's to live the mission statement. I want every one of my employees to know their job was to create a member experience as the first priority. And also, me meant we work together. Me first will help him out as well. Me first, I'm going to learn. I'm going to grow here. What a great human laboratory to work in a club. I'm going to grow it with my experience as well. So that was mine. Explain and live values. If you want to create a motivating climate working with high performance juniors, you better explain what the values are. The values are, I'm not going to try to inspire you every day. You have to come self-motivated. I'm not going to tell you to go in the weight room. You want to be a D1 player or better, you got to go work out. Whatever your values are for them, articulate and make them clear to them. So again, no one's left hanging out to dry and unclear what's going on. Satisfy, a little bit out of order. Mine, number 3 here on your sheet is satisfy the basic need for achievement and belonging. So you really make someone feel like they're welcome, they're part of the group. That's really important. They can be involved in decision making. Create trust. We're going to come back to that. Involve students whenever possible, and staff whenever making decisions. Provide coaching and feedback. Obviously, you do that as pros. We should do it as a boss. Model the correct behavior. We have to walk the talk ourselves. In this day and age, our young people, if we're not going to, model the way we ask them to do, we're pretty much toast. Allow them to grow. I mean, if you run a department, you can grow by having them read USPTA articles, you know, your library, you have here in Salem for free, it doesn't cost you a lot. And then reward and recognize, you can have that. Yeah, all the different things. So these are 10 things that I believe are critical for us to do as tennis professionals, if you work with students, or for us to do as leaders. So let's take a couple of these and break them down. We have time for a couple in further detail. So trust. Are we credible? We said earlier, trust is the building block of any relationship. There's no trust, you can kiss everything else goodbye. Don't try to be a good director, don't try to be a good pro. It just doesn't work. Trust is built up over time through a series of experiences. Again, when I was general manager at the RAC, we'd put in a 35,000 square foot family entertainment center with a whole bunch of stuff for families in there. And we hired a new director. And I'd sit down with Jen, and I'd say, Jen, you know, well, I was walking through, and I'd decide when I would talk to an employee and when I'd make it aware to a director. And I'd say, not a big deal. I saw if Ben was sitting down on the job, and you see Ben, tell me he's got to be standing up. She'd go, okay. I'd go, Jen, I'm just trying to give you feedback. And feedback, I mean to give it to you in a neutral fashion. And I had a whole sheet I gave all my staff on what feedback was all about. And as pros, we want to give feedback in a neutral fashion. Hopefully it's received in a neutral fashion. I say, Jen, am I bothering you here? She goes, no, I can do it. I go, okay. And we'd talk about things for several months. And over a period of time, I'd see her back hairs go down. I'd do the same thing 6 months later. I see Allison sitting down on the job. We talk to her. She goes, sure, no problem. I go, I said, Jen, I got to ask you something. I said, when I discuss something, try to be neutrals. When you first came up here, I could tell you were resentful. Your back hairs went up. Now it's water off your back. What's the difference? Well, she goes, well, over a period of time, you know, I trust you now. And she goes, to be honest, when I came here, low tolerance for trusting men. You know, my dad left us when we were 1.5 years. My mother was crushed. We had no money. Basically, I don't trust men. When she got married, she invited me. She didn't invite her dad to her wedding. You know, so sometimes you have to play the hands you're dealt with a student or as a leader. So sometimes you'll get the experiences they've had before you've come. But so trust takes time to develop. Almost the biggest predictor of team success. If you've got a group of 10 high-performance players or a women's 3.0 team or your own staff, isn't necessarily competencies, it's trust factor. It's harmony. And harmony doesn't mean if I say something and Lane thinks it's a stupid idea, he goes, God, Greg, you're smart. No, what trust means is I say something and Lane goes, Greg, can we look at it this way? Or to be honest, I've got a concern. And I say, tell it to me. That we have the ability to be honest and open with each other and trust each other and even have some heated arguments if we need to, but we still can walk out together to the parking lot as friends. It's almost the biggest predictor of success in your group, with your groups or your business is that type of harmony. Trust. I mean, is it a policy where you can promote from within? You solve problems with your students or your staff fairly, they feel valued. So for all of us, if you again have a group of 10 high-performance kids or adult ladies or men or your manager, there's going to be some sort of culture that develops, some sort of character in that area. And so if you have trust, will it be calamity or calmness? If you have a higher level of trust, it'll be a lot calmer. It's learned over time. And no matter what you do, if you don't create the culture yourself, they'll come up with their own. So trust really is a very big deal as far as creating a motivating climate. Yes?
Would you also say that's not surround yourself with yes people? You want employees that challenge you sometimes in a respectful way, but just not every idea you're going to have is going to be the best one, and you want people to help you develop it or to challenge you sometimes in a respectful, trustful way.
Oh yeah, I think male ego can be a bad thing sometimes, right? I think any of us are pretty short-sighted if we don't hire people. I try to hire people that are better and smarter and bring skill sets I don't have, so you definitely want to do it. But it's all establishing what? I'm so big on this idea, I said before, of value systems. What are the priorities that govern our action? So someone's hired new, before I offer someone the job, we go over the value system. And values are, we treat each other in a respectful and courteous fashion. Values are, it's an open administration. You can bring things up. So I state that to staff before they even come on. And I hope people could add value and bring. And I'm a big believer in R&D. You all know what that is, right? What is it?
Research and development.
Exactly, rip off and duplicate, okay? And even, that isn't my phrase, I steal that from Kurt Kamperman, I love that phrase. So we all want to rip off, I mean, like I said in the first session, if you ever want these handouts, give me your email, I'll send them out, or these slides, I'm happy to send them to you. But we're all here to learn from others and rip off and duplicate type stuff, so hopefully, I love a staff, but the key is clarity, is to make, before strategy, make sure it's clear that that's part of how we run the business, or with your students as well. So everything I say, I think is universally applicable to students or staff. The other is to celebrate success. All of us are tennis players. So for the most part, we're competitive by nature. We wouldn't have stayed in tennis this long. So it's so important if you're a pro with your students or a manager with your staff to celebrate success. Because high achievers appreciate praise. They're competitive, okay? And what is, so celebrate success, so what? What does it do? It improves morale. I mean, it really does. It increases member loyalty and increases connectedness, which we'll talk about in a minute. It really increases revenues. It does. It decreases problems for you and increases the fun. Let's have a little fun when we come to work. And there are different tools you can use. So whenever you do training with our people or with leaders, I choose these 3 words on purpose. So whenever I develop training programs, they got to appeal to 3 things. Every training program has to appeal to the heart, the head, and the hands. So whenever you're working with somebody, you got to give them the reasons, the emotional reasons, and the tie. I said earlier that unless there's no sustained employee commitment, unless the staff have an inspired vision, or your students. So you appeal emotionally. You talk to the head why we're going to do things, and then give them skills to go out and do. So it's a little aside. That's how you develop training programs. The students or staff, you've always got to include the why, the so what, and the tools. But thank yous are so important. I had 12 department heads at Rochester. I made every one of them hand in 2 thank yous to me every week. And they had to be sincere and timely. So if you were the fitness director, if you saw somebody at the front desk doing something well, or somebody at the restaurant, you had to turn them in. So if you do the math, that's about hundreds of them. And I made each tennis pro do one a week. So I know I forced it. I wasn't apologized for it. Only one person really complained. But I created 10,000 thank yous a year to my frontline staff. I have to believe that had some sort of impact on morale and how people viewed the club. So to give thank yous. At the anniversary of each employee, I wrote them a handwritten note, and it was personalized to them. Thanks for being the enrollment instructor for 3 years. What you do in the Zumba classes is great, that type of stuff. On your birthday, the department head gave the frontline employee a personal note and gave you a meal in the restaurant. So you can do all kinds of stuff. The 3 penny one, that wasn't a big spender, I gotta be honest. So I gave each director 3 pennies at a staff meeting. I said, what I want you to do is put them in your right pocket. And each time you catch an employee doing something right and you thank them, I want you to move 1 penny from one pocket to the other. Right? And then see how long it takes for all the pennies to be moved and then to be moved back. And we're going to do this for a week. So they came in for the staff meeting the next week. I'm about to say how did it go. Before I got the words out of my mouth, my desk manager, Dan, stands up and goes, I got to tell you, last week in this meeting, when you told me to put 3 pennies in this pocket, I was insulted. I thank my staff all the time. How dare you do such a juvenile activity to us? Because I'm not going to be honest. He goes, I put those in my pocket on Tuesday. All of a sudden, Thursday, they're still there. I had to move the penny. And I thought I was thanking and celebrating success with my staff a lot, and I realized I'm hardly doing it. So there's all different kinds of things you can do. I want to save the blue jar exercise and the theme for the quarter in a minute, but all kinds of reward with food, party, recognition. I'll tell you the favorite one I ever did, if you could do this, is I take my staff out once a quarter for lunch. Because you want Italian, you want Mexican, you want whatever else. So I said to them, this time, I'm taking you to a special place. Everyone's going to get the meal that you like. And by the way, it's going to take longer, so book we're gonna go out for lunch and come back for some training, so book from noon to 4. Don't have anything going on, I need you from noon to 4. I said, okay, we're gonna go out. So I took them all to the local mall food court. Okay, because there was the Mexican, there was the tacos, and there was this, all the different ones. I gave them $6 cash each. And I gave my fitness director going, $6, this doesn't even cover a meal. What the heck are we doing? It's gonna be special. You don't give me enough money to eat. We're at this stinking food court. You gotta be kidding me. And so we all came back and sat at this one table, and they're all eating. And after a couple of minutes, I got up silently and put an envelope in front of each of them, put their name on it, and went around, and I sat down, and inside was a handwritten note, fitness director, thanks for doing a great job, blah, 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 it was all personal, and a crisp $100 bill. And then we all read them. I stood up and I said, here's what we're doing. I said, I needed you from noon to 4. There's no training. It's now 12:45. You all have now 3 hours off, go shopping. And I've given you $100. You have to spend 60 of that on yourself, or I'll take it back. The other 40 you can keep, buy something for a friend, I don't care. And then at 3:15, we're all gonna meet at the club, and you're all gonna show each other what you bought. I'm telling you, they were on a high for a couple months after that. So there's a lot of things we can do, I think, to really celebrate successes in our businesses, or be creative with your students. You know, maybe you celebrate, let them pick drills, you do those kind of things. But I believe those ideas right there are 10 things we can do that create a climate where responsible people will thrive, whether you're a teaching pro, adapt them, or you lead people. Okay? So I think maybe we'll save this and go by. The next idea for success is this idea, again, of clarity before strategy. I really believe in definitions. So the previous one, I said what I think is the essence of tennis. If we could teach one idea and nothing else, what would it be? I believe we should have definitions for all these as well. I had a definition I have for a lesson. To me, why we park those curtains and push that cart of balls on the court and teach is for this simple reason. I want my pros to know their job is to increase awareness. So when you step on the court, your only job is to increase his awareness. Now it's your knowledge, your experience, and your art form to know whether we should increase his knowledge on his forehand ground stroke, or his strategy, or his mental toughness, whatever it is. But to me, that's the essence of a lesson. The purpose of a lesson is to increase awareness in the students, and the goal is they become what? Self-sufficient on that court. That's what it is. So what are some of the other ideas that are part of success of a lesson? Is it shirt tucked in, or you do not care? Is it clean shoes, or you don't care? Is the lesson starting on time? Do you require lesson plans? So we could have all those different things that really we should have, I think, clearly laid out what really means a successful lesson. Okay, what are the non-negotiable values and priorities that go into that? And the same thing for a tennis instructor. I assume all tennis instructors have job descriptions, all tennis professionals have job descriptions, but what does it mean to be successful in all roles? I want to spend, and for your department, what's your department's goals and all those things? I want to spend some time. To me, what every tennis professional should understand about a lesson, which is part of the success, is what's the only thing that creates customer loyalty. So if you're an Insomniac and you want to read a book at night, you can read Human Signet by Gallup, or some of Luciani's books and different things. But a lot of research by Gallup says only one thing will create customer loyalty. It's nice to have a clean locker room. It's nice to have balls that aren't dead. It's nice that they can try demos, but the only thing that will create customer loyalty in any business is emotional connectedness. It's the only thing. While you'll drive by his club and come to his, because this person makes you feel welcome, makes you feel special. You really are connected to that group. All right? So that's why what I did point there, right here, is this blue jar for exercise. So when I ran those 21 clubs at Lifetime, I did two things. I wanted every staff meeting to end with connectedness stories. I want this driven in the psyche of all the pros. And I believe in theme of a quarter. Don't do a theme of the day or the week. It goes by too fast. So if there's a dozen pros in this club, you all know the first week, you three had to tell one member connectedness story. Then the second week, you three had to tell a membership connectedness story. I gave this lesson to Mildred. She's new to town. She's 3-0. I knew there were one lady short on this 4-0 league. I got her part of it. That's a member connectedness story. So then what happened is, every meeting was ended. There was 12 pros. 3 told a story each week, so you heard 12 stories every month, which drove at your psyche, and you were responsible. So if you're week 3 and you haven't got one, you're out there hopefully hustling, thinking, okay, how can I connect members this week? And then I initiated a newsletter for all the employees in the tennis department, desk and pros, and I made each tennis director turn into me their stories, and then I listed those, about half a dozen, 8 every time, in each monthly newsletter, member connected to stories, so all the pros would see it again in a monthly newsletter. So to me, again, if this talks kind of about being more successful as a pro, the concept is how to create loyalty is a big deal. So what do? Do any of you have any particular things that you do well, you think, how you engage your customers at your clubs? Anything you're proud of, or yeah?
It's not just at work, it's just even outside events, but I found it's like when we have like at the end of the event, like the team dinner, just, say everybody, parents, kids, let's go get some lunch, and the parents and some of they're like, wow, that's kind of doesn't really happen everywhere, and actually they're more likely, that's outside events, inside events, same thing. They're more likely to do volunteer work or something when they kind of get to know you more personally.
Yeah. When you get to know people more personally and your friends, a lot higher level of emotional connectedness. Remember connectedness there. We're taking them out to lunch. I'm sure a lot of you put stuff on Facebook and all the social media really creates member connectedness. Anybody else have anything they do?
Well, I know what I do with lessons. I make a very concentrated effort to make each lesson about them. So it's always what their issues are. There are no cookie cutter ways to teach forehands and backhands.
Okay.
It's really about the way that they do it, and then we build from there.
Yeah, good. If it's personalized like that, I'll relate to a lot more. So, yes.
Well, I would say personality type, I'm like a little bit probably more analytical in a sense, but my fiance is just a people person of, incredible, degree, and it just taught me so much being around her is that just saying hello to people and just being genuinely interested, whereas for me, I'm just analytical, it's very much, different, but just watching, it's just like, and so I've learned you just care about people, and it doesn't have to be complicated. You don't have to analyze their life story. You just, how are you doing?
Sure.
And just connecting on just a simple term it can be everything.
Yep, just didn't, if you had a lesson 1 week apart, and they talked about their son, whatever, graduating, ask them the next lesson the next week. How did graduation go? Yeah, so they feel special, they just feel remembered. If your staff can say names, say the name all the time. I mean again, it was my value at Rochester that every staff looked every member in the eye every time they walked by. So I'm just a lowly locker room attendant. I fold and wash towels. So I'm pushing that towel cart through like this. No, you're pushing that towel, a bucket through the hall saying, how you doing? How you doing? Each time you're in the locker room, it's how you doing? I do that every time. I put half of them even my name tag badge was there. Greg Lappin, general manager. They'll kind of look at the badge and walk by. And that was kind of funny. Half of them even say hi back to me. But it's still my responsibility never to walk by somebody and not look them in the eye and nod and say hi.
I'll give a good one for all of us in this room for tennis pros in general, and it's something so little, but I've actually had students tell me years later, I still remember you doing this for me. Look at your students' equipment, grips, strings, and a little something, hey, I noticed your grip's worn, do you want me to replace it? And it's a personal connection to that person, because it's something I've had some people go, my pros never looked at my racket or my grip or my strings. And it's something so simple that we all see on a normal basis. We change our own every 3 days or whatever it is. But to say that to our 3-0 woman who's had the same grip on a racket for a couple weeks and it's gone from white to gray or black.
How about a couple months?
Yeah. And just say to them, hey, do you want me to change that for you?
Sure.
It's something they bring up I mean, I have students that brought up years later, oh, I still remember when you changed my grip that one day, because nobody else had done it for me.
And that's a great one, knowing you do that, and now can you even take it where you talk about, okay, now if you've got your whole pro staff to do it, and I got a special in the pro shop that month or that week on grips, you can make a big deal and probably make a little money off at the same time.
I think too, like sometimes as teaching professionals, you get caught up with your students only, you know, and the people you teach. But I know even like just kind of what you guys were saying, where like if he's teaching somebody and he comes in the pro shop and says, Sally had a match tonight, and when I see Sally, I'm like, how did your match go? And she's like, how'd you know about my match? And I'm like, well, you know, so-and-so was telling me about it. Like, to her, that goes back to the pro that she was working with, and it's like, oh, he's talking in a positive way, not a negative way. And then it kind of gives her a customer loyalty with the other staff members where she kind of feels more comfortable around.
But to me, this is a huge idea. That if studies have shown the only thing that creates customer loyalty is emotional connectedness, then we should be all over this idea of myself, if I'm a lone pro, or if I have a staff or whatever, or going back and talking to your director about what can we do in concrete ways to create more and more emotional connectedness. This is just, some of us are old enough to remember Cheers, right? This is the Norm thing, right? Everybody knows your name. Yeah, so all we're talking about. So basically, if you want to grow your business, inspire passionate advocacy. So that's what we're after. That everyone's an advocate of your business. Do activities that create pride and passion. Grow programs. Again, we're talking about that. Grow relationships. It's all about this emotional connectedness. It's all about engagement. People now in our society are looking not for experiences, right? And that's, our society's changing. Chief objective is just to create value, so we give them their solutions. So we'll point out. We went over some of these earlier. One idea here, I want to make sure, talking about success, is the idea, this is part of our front wheel skills or interpersonal communication. Anyone done this before? Where, you know, as we communicate in lessons, do you know what percentage, how we come across to other people as nonverbals, verbals, and words? Have you seen that? Take a second and write on a sheet of paper there what you think. Nonverbals are what? Eye contact, how we dress, proximity of space in a lesson, nodding, gestures, you know, smiling, frowning, hand gestures, all those you know are nonverbals. Tone is the inflection in my voice. And then words. How do we communicate to your wife, your friend, your neighbor, your lessons? Is it 33, 33, 33, 85, 10, 10? Take a second and write down, how do you think we come across other people as human beings? This was a study done at the University of Southern California years ago, and this is what your speech communication professors at college will tell you. This is how we communicate to other people. It's 55% nonverbals, 38 tone, and 7% words. Normally point in bickering whether it's 56 or 54% or whatever. The concept, the point of this slide is, the idea is that the most powerful way we communicate with our lessons is through nonverbals. And the same with the desk staff of the person coming in. And the next study that was done was by Harvard, which they studied more the first 30 seconds. That's why you have this phrase, there's never a second chance at a first impression. Harvard said, at the first minute you meet somebody, communication's 80% nonverbal. I don't know Lane yet. Is he looking me in the eye? Is he giving me a firm handshake? Is he shaking my hand while he's talking to Horvay so I feel pretty small? You know, all these different things. How we come across non-verbally. That's why a lot of times you meet somebody for the first time, introduce our names, and 10 seconds later you can't remember their name because your mind's so full of these non-verbals. How's it going with this person? And the last idea is this 7-11 rule, where it says people make 11 judgments about you in the first 7 seconds they meet you. Okay, by this stuff. So why I bring this up, if we want to be more successful tennis professionals, is that we really are aware of how critical nonverbals are and how critical that first impression is when we meet those people. If we're looking to create membership retention, lesson retention, and customer loyalty, it just is such a really big deal. And the same if you train front desk staff.
So I guess when you're feeding a child or one of your students, you shouldn't go.
That may not be the best way to go. That would probably not go over well. But it's amazing how perceptive kids are, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But then we need that lesson more to their parents watching the matches.
Yeah, and that's true.
Oh, yeah.
Fair point. Yeah, fair point. It has to be part of the education. But I wanted to go over this to be success, is we're aware of how important nonverbals is, and the 7-11 principle is really a big deal. Okay, some of you are leaders. If you want to be more successful, it's this simple, this phrase: monitoring increases revenues. Again, you have to inspect your product. You'd much rather have your staff teaching what you want them to teach as opposed to what they teach. Or, but this idea that we have to continue, or ourselves, continually be inspecting, we define, refine, improve things as we go along. So if I ran a program, I'd monitor the teaching pro, I'd monitor their adherence to standards, I'd monitor their interaction with members, and I'd even do a survey. So if I'm watching someone for a half hour teach a class and I'm going to have a review and interact with them, maybe for 15 minutes I'm watching them, I get up and I see a parent here watching the class, I'll walk over and say, "I'm Greg, I'm a tennis director. I haven't met you yet. Do you mind? I know you're watching your child in this class. I have a survey here. Can I take 5 minutes of your time and just ask you some questions, if we're meeting your needs or not?" So you can even, when you're critiquing a pro, talk to the members at the same time. If you're a director, it's important, but I really believe monitoring. I'm going to be totally honest, when I took over at Lifetime, there wasn't 1 minute of monitoring done by any pro in any club anywhere in the country. You got 200 pros and not one was being watched. And I honestly thought they were 100% were great people, but 1/3 were really good pros, 1/3 were very good pros, and 1/3 should not be teaching just because they weren't trained.
I actually indirectly worked for you at Lifetime, and that was 100% true.
Yeah.
I worked for RCS when Lifetime took over RCS.
Did you?
With Lane McCleary.
Yeah.
And just not a single second of oversight.
Yep.
At any time. Ever.
Yeah.
And just,
Hopefully when I was there, I moved the needle a little bit, I hope.
yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk, I'll be curious what you experience it, but next idea is that the concept, if you really want to be excellent, basically my definition of excellence is just day in and day out doing a job at a high performance. Well, let's be honest, if you're teaching 30 hours a week in the sun, it's draining, it's tough. But each time we cross that baseline, it's got to be showtime, right? That's what excellence is, it's just every day, putting out at a high level of performance. But also we know it requires constant discipline and attention to systems. So again, you define what you're doing, you align it, you make sure it's consistent with your values, and you refine it, and we're all results focused. I said in the previous session, a result is your potential minus your barriers. And you achieve a result by an adherence to a strategy. If I want to lose 10 pounds, I got to adhere to not having 3 bowls of ice cream every night. My strategy is going to be 1 bowl of ice cream every night. And I got to adhere to that, and I'll lose 10 pounds. But I love that definition for a result. I think it's equally applicable for teaching a lesson as working with staff. I think we should teach our students what the definition of a result is. With potential and barriers. What are your barriers to getting your result is? You want to be state champ? We agree that's your potential. You're playing once a week. It's not going to happen. So I like that idea, and it all goes back to values. I talked about what's the only thing that creates customer loyalty. Also, if you want to be successful, it's really critical to understand what is the ultimate competitive advantage. If I ask that, how would you answer?
Doing something that someone else can't do.
Yep, and that pretty much is you. Okay, so again, Lane's got fitness equipment at his club. So we all can buy Precor ellipticals, we can all buy Life Fitness treadmills, we can all buy free motion fitness equipment, we can all buy Wilson Penn Prince rackets and all that kind of stuff. But the only thing that cannot be duplicated is every one of you. So for every business, it is the ultimate competitive advantage is the person who's got the right skill sets in the job performing well. That's why I say to all of you, don't sell yourself short. If you weren't in the first session, You know, you also got that one handout from the first one that lists all interpersonal communication skills and all task skills. And look at improving those skills in those two lists, and you're much more hireable as a person. So it's critical to understand the ultimate competitive advantage is all of us and the skills we bring. And then, like you just said, what can we do to differentiate ourselves between others? So the winners in the battleground of business, those that are successful, they offer a superior product with excellent service, and now we're going to try to provide a superior experience. Okay, so what can you do that's different? You gotta be honest. When I taught full time, Minneapolis weren't quite as big as Alta, but when I taught full time, we had 4,000 or 5,000 ladies playing in the state time league. So you'd meet with them once a week. First week's a match against other teams, second week's a drill. Every drill I ever did, every time, I brought out a handout and it listed what we went over. Okay, that was just my value, but hopefully that was something a little bit different or special. So what can you do that's special? How do you create differentiation? So let's take a minute. What are some of the things that you think you do that are special or unique at your clubs that you're proud of? That how you differentiate yourself? Anything?
Multiple skill sets.
Multiple skill sets? I mean, you've got a lot of different talents, okay?
You know everything about our members, what record they play with, what side they like, what lefty, righty, what style play, what
Okay.
their kids' names are, how they drive.
That's good. Know all that stuff. That'd be really good. Okay? You can differentiate yourself. Do you require lesson plans for every lesson? Do you or don't? That's up to you. If you're going out for 3 pros, go out for high performance, you kind of wing it at 1 minute to 4 when you're walking out in the court, or is there a real plan behind it? You know? One thing we did at Rochester when I was there after a while is we had a parent pro conference. All the kids had parent teacher conferences. We had a parent pro conference. You know, so we, twice a year, 2 or 3 times a year, you can sit down with the pro and we'd tell you where your student was at. And I'm sure you do the same thing. We wrote up, the whole critique of the student and gave it to them, all that type of idea. I mean, so they knew where they were at, their whole plan for the student. So, what else do we do that makes us really special or unique?
Maybe just actually create the environment. I don't know, just making sure when they walk in and say, wow, this place is really, really clean and really, really, it just looks really, really good. I mean, better than any other. So I guess the environment, it looks unique too. So everything's well kept.
It's a really big deal. #1 complaint on any survey ever taken, anytime, in any club is lack of cleanliness. I'm amazed when I go around and see the dust on the vents and all those different things. I mean, yeah, it's really a big deal. So the concept is the ultimate competitive advantage is us. We're always thinking about how we can raise the bar and make ourselves more special. We'll get about 2 more minutes and we'll stop. This idea of priority. If anyone takes a time management course, it's a waste of time. We're not effective. It's not about time management. It's about priority management. And you see it's priority because that term came originally from the Greek. In the Greek, it's only one priority. It's only us overachieving Americans that make it priorities and pluralize it. So you only can have one priority at a time. So as we go back to our businesses, the main thing's the main thing. It's not possible to have a lot of priorities. The secret for us to be organized, have good organizational skills, is what's our priority. And again, I go back to these 2 big themes I have. It's all about values. It's all about results. We're paid to produce results. And we have to understand the difference between a result and an activity. If someone comes to me and goes, I got 80% of 1 done, and 60% of 2, and 30% of 3, and 9% of number 4 done, I'm doing so well. I'll go, you haven't done a thing. You haven't finished anything. There's no result. All right? Result is when something is complete. So if someone has 4 things going on, congratulations, you're involved in 4 activities, but nothing's been brought to a conclusion. We're paid for results, not for activities. So the concept is, we want to understand what is our purpose. Our purpose, we're in a lifestyle change business. That gives us an inspired vision that we think what we do is a calling, and what we do has a significant impact on our customers, our department, our club, our community, and what we do is worthwhile. That's our purpose. That should dictate what your priority is, or if you got a couple of priorities you're working on. Your priority dictates the plan. Your plan dictates your daily schedule. That's pretty much, you know, how things work when we go back. And the key is to change behavior into performance. So last idea for factors for success, if you're an individual, 3 ideas I think how we really can be successful. First of all is help. I'm sure we go around, I can't stress enough how critical networking is. Introduce yourselves to each other, meet each other. It really is so important. Every job I've got is due to these 3 things right here. I mean, I like to think I worked hard, all right? I think I hope I've got a few skills, but I never would have gotten any of those jobs if I hadn't, by grace of God, had some networking with some other people. Okay, it really was. So networking, I can't emphasize how critical that really is to our success. Second is, it's history and skills. Continue to develop those front wheel skills and back wheel skills so you're more marketable. And third, it's hard work or character. We really are a pretty small community. All right, you know, 5 or 6 years ago, Jorge and I met. We were friends now. I mean, if all of a sudden I was wondering about a pro in this area, I'd call him and ask him. I got to know, I mean, Doug Cash really well, who used to run TCA, and probably the #1 tennis consultant in the country. I mean, when I'm hiring pros at Lifetime, he was asking about somebody. We talked to each other all the time. There was one pro who remained nameless, who did some terrible things, and I've had 3 guys call me about him, and all I say is that he's not eligible for rehire. That's all I will say, and you can do what you want with that, as I can legally say. And they get the drift. But I mean, I've saved, I think, 3 of my friends from making a bad hire. This guy was terrible, unbelievably dishonest and unethical. But so the concept is, those 3 things right there really contribute to success. If you're a leader, and if you're a leader of your students or a team, to me, this is almost the most important statement in business right here, is that a team who is aligned. Aligned means you agree on values. If I work for Lane, and Lane says lessons start on time, and I keep walking out 10 minutes late, what do we have? We have a problem, a difference or a gap, right? So the concept is we have to align or agree on what our values are. If we're in alignment, if we're skilled, we've got the right skills to do the job, and we're informed, we communicate with each other, I can guarantee you, I can promise you, you will get results. You will be successful. Absolutely, it'll happen. So a team that's aligned and skilled and informed will be successful. But the converse is equally true. If we have people that aren't very skilled, that don't communicate very well, and we're always fighting disagreements on values, it'll be chaos and calamity, and we won't nearly be as successful. I really like that statement a lot. It applies to working with students as well as staff. So, keys for success: know what business you're in, the lifestyle change, social and learning styles, define success, sacred trust is a motivating climate, know what creates loyalty and customer advantage and activities. I would say to you, the last thing, about 1 minute when we're done, is when I ran these clubs, I did a lot more with IRSA than the USPTA. And you may know IRSA is the International Health and Racket Sport Association. It's more for the club managers and owners. And John McCarthy, some of you may know him, was the executive director for 25 years. And so I knew John. I remember one time we're standing at an IRSA convention. There was 1,000 booths in the trade show, and really good keynote speakers and good stuff. And I say, John, you've got to be really happy with the success of this. All these people are learning. Turns to me and goes, Greg, I'm really honest. In our surveys, we only find 2% of the people ever go back and do anything with what they've learned here. So I would say, again, I said before, if you have written goals, you're 700% more successful than people that don't, and probably less than 5% of Americans have written goals. I would ask you to go back and write down, and you've got to do it in the first 48 hours. If you don't do it in 48 hours, whack-a-mole takes over. And what's that? Remember the arcade game, flip the quarter, and you get that mallet, and loop pops up? The lane goes back, and all of a sudden it's wave 6. You can't make the mixer. Boom, whack that one. This happens, this happens, this happens. And whack-a-mole takes over in our lives, and we never get things done. So you want to set aside a certain amount of time each week to come up with a plan. And I would tell you, go back and come up with 1 or 2 priorities from all the sessions you've heard that you're going to go back and incorporate. And when you finish those, write down your next 1 or 2 priorities, and then finish those off. And that's how you get results, is just one at a time, and knock them off. And the nice thing is to be, if you did that, 1 year from now, when you come back wherever you're going to be next year, you can raise your hand and say, I'm more successful because I accomplished, I have results in 4 or 5 or 6 more things than I did when I came here a year ago. But I can't stress, if you want, this is such a really important thing to do, or whack-a-mole takes over. So, all right, thank you very much for your time. Like John McEnroe one time, he said, I learned something today, not sure what it is. He lost to Mayhan, so.